entries? Hilarious. Hello and welcome to sim.bc, where right now is 0039, so 2021 in the AM. Yeah, we're in the middle of the night, just like back in the day when it was around New Year's Eve, and I had to record in the middle of the night because I didn't know if I was going to be able to upload something because the internet speed was so slow on the farmlands of which I was living on. This is not the case this time. No, this time, I would like to say that it's the word of the week. Yeah, the word of the new month is going to come into inspiration, going to come into play here. And that word, of course, being stress. That is why I'm actually uploading now. Why? Well, because there are so many things that is happening in my life right as of now. It's just things. Every single day, every single hour. Everything is just scheduled in for everything. I don't have the time to actually put it out and record. So I thought, you know what? A day like this, when I have stuff to do the entire day, given that I want to sleep 8 hours as well, because that's important, and I need that beauty sleep, yeah? In order to not be a jerk to everybody around me, even if, you can be that anyway. Matters less. I thought, why not just record in the middle of the night and have it over with, and then I can work on the editing in the morning, and I can make a thumbnail during lunch, and then I can put everything together and upload it in the afternoon, so that will take approximately 20 minutes each, ish, but spread over the entire day, and then I can take this 20-minute session and just have it here. If it is 20 minutes, we'll see. That's the limit on the DSLR, by the way. If you wonder, why isn't he never going over those 20 golden minutes? Why? Even though it is over actually with the intro and outro. Anyway, mates, matters less. That's not why you're here. No. You're here because we're going to discuss, well, what's probably, hopefully, given in the title. And yes, I still think that it's a funny joke. The referral to title. Why? Because I see so many people just click on videos and then they don't, because they look at the thumbnail, right? Which is probably an indication that I should put a bit more of thought process into me thumbnails. Yes, but I've seen so many people actually click, and hearing from people clicking on thumbnails and then just being like, what is this video about? And then they read the title after they watch the video and they're like, oh, so that's what it was supposed to be about. Interesting. Anyway, that's not at all what we're going to talk about. What we are going to talk about, though, is villains, yeah? And I know, we've already talked about villains when we were talking about what is evil, yeah? What is evil here? What is evil there? But I was making kind of a semi-rushed Black Panther review yesterday. For me, it was like an hour ago, Yesterday was about an hour ago for me. But I made a bit of a stress review. And then I also made 4 videos on Infinity War, accumulative over the weekend. So I thought, you know what? Why not combine the two? Because from these 2 movies, arguably in Thor Ragnarok as well, we have established a theme, or rather, well, we haven't, but Disney have established a theme through Marvel, through their villains, which I thought was quite interesting. It might just be that this is just my view, right? And I'm saying this is obviously the pattern that they're following, and that might be completely wrong, but that's up for debate, and that's where we're establishing it here, right? I mean, all about expressing your opinion online. Did an entire podcast on that if you wonder why. Anyway, mates, so what we're going to talk about obviously is going to include spoilers, and I'm saying spoiler warnings. If I for some reason go into specifics, which I'm not sure that I will, well, probably, but it might not be, but just gonna put a spoiler tag right here, right, or something. You're saying that it is spoilers, and if you don't know what that really means, that means that I'm going to talk about things that happens in the movies, and we're talking both Infinity War, Thor Ragnarok, and the Black Panther. Yeah. So just bear that in mind so that you don't get butthurt in the future when we're moving forward. So what do I want to talk about? We're actually getting into it, mates. Even though it's like 4.5 minutes in, we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. And what I am talking about is the villains, Thanos and Killmonger specifically. And I guess that you kind of can slip in Hela from Thor Ragnarok, right? It's an argument to be made there. But the entire thing and the entire theme that I'm going to take up here is themes, pun intended, which these different villains takes up. Because what I've been thinking about and what I've been observing when I've watched these videos is that it's a rather strong thematical approach that they've taken. Because in order, they've gotten the usual criticism that, your videos, or sorry, your movies is about the heroes. If you watch an Iron Man movie, no matter if it's Iron Man 1, 2 or 3, it's about bloody Iron Man. It makes sense because, it's in the title, it's in the movie poster, it's what people go to see. So it makes sense that the movie is going to be about the hero that is featured, right? If it's a Captain America movie, if it's not, Civil War or the Winter Soldier, otherwise, in the first Avenger, it's about Captain America. In Iron Man, it's about Iron Man. In Hulk, it's about Bruce Banner and occasionally the Hulk. All of these things, you can see that the hero matters, which obviously means that sometimes, most of the times actually, all the times up until, the last couple of years, the villains have kind of been in this second spot, right? They've always been pushed aside because we're prioritizing the hero. And what I would like to argue that has been seen over these latest 3 MCU movies is that they've taken up the villain in a new approach. And in order to make them relatable and grounded, they obviously made them some humane, they've given them some humane features. Even if Thanos is this huge black dark titan who's going out to kill the universe, he still has a reason for why he's doing it. And you might say, oh, well, wait. There has been villain in the past who has reason for why they're doing things as well, right? Yes, but the difference between, for instance, Killmonger and Thanos is that they have 2 very strong opinions that probably many people out there in the world has at some point thought about. For instance, if we take Killmonger, he's a very racially insensitive villain. Let's just put it at that, just casual racism in a children's movie. Where he is all the time talking about the people who are us, our people, the people who look like us. They live in fear, they live in oppression. Obviously, talking about this racial, making a differentiation between the races and saying that they're different. And saying that one should topple the other, which is obviously not correct, right? So you obviously see that there's a fanatic view of this approach, because obviously his way of saying is that, or his reasoning, or at least it seems so to me when I was watching the movie, is that I want to help people. It's just the way that he goes about helping people isn't really the best. He want to help people through starting wars. He want to help people by topple the people in power and in charge, which is not necessarily a bad thing all of the time, but it usually is, right? I mean, you don't want to overthrow the government just to overthrow the government. You want to have a reason behind it. And while he do have a reason, the reason isn't strong enough, or at least it isn't displayed strong enough in the movie, which makes it perfect for a villain's motivation. Because if they spent a lot of time actually fleshing out the ideas of the villain, then it might turn the entire thing around and you will be like, hey, I actually agree with the villain, which is, arguably yet again a good thing that you want to have. You want to have some people to come out and say, you know what, I sympathized with that villain. Was he even the villain of the movie? And as I said, sometimes this is a bit clearer. For instance, Hela in Thor Ragnarok, which is why this is kind of not that strong correlation and that strong of a connection to that movie. But if you think about Hela, she is someone who has been outcast, cast out and imprisoned from her own family. Based on that, her father, Odin, couldn't control her bloodlust, which I thought was kind of interesting. So what she just want to do, she just want to get back at what she's always done, which is conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer, pillage. Because that's all that you've been taught. So that is taking up the approach of whose responsibility is it that something goes wrong? Is it the parents' problem? Odin, who has been talking about, has been preaching this way of living for a while, all since Hela was born. Or is it the kid's fault, who should be saying, I'm an adult now and I can take my own decisions? But obviously this is stretched out to a fanatic view where there is only black and white in Hela's world and she's only going towards one side of it, right? And the same goes for Killmonger. Sure, I want to help people, Killmonger says, but how are we going to go about this? Well, by killing the, everybody who stands in our way. And he's very particular and very explicit in the way he says that as well. In the movie, he's mentioning, not only getting rid of the people in power, but also getting rid of everybody who supports them, everybody who's related to them. It's a very animalistic way of thinking, I would say, or another word of saying that, a very fanatic way of thinking about it. So taking a completely relevant topic, something that is extremely, what should we say, polarized at the moment, talking about what is a life worth, for instance, if you talk about Thanos later, but what is, this racial debate, what is it all about, where can we actually stand on this, can we actually make an impact, and if so, how are we going to make an impact? And I would argue that Killmonger's character is taking a very strong position on that. Well, racism just go one way, right? Because that might not exactly be what he's saying, but he's taking a very strong stance on that, or a very strong racist stance on that. Well, we are going to topple them. And that's basically coming down on this racial discussion and saying that, one part of this racial discussion is more worth in comparison to the others. So we're going to take this part and just throw over the other part, and just get rid of it, right? That's one way of viewing it. And there probably are some people who think that this is the right way of going about this problem and this discussion, which is also reflected in his character. But the way he goes about it, even though I would argue that point of view probably isn't the best, topple the other one, but his core message of I want to help these people is really good, because that's what we all want to do, right? I mean, we want to help people out there. It doesn't matter who we want to help, but everybody probably wants to help someone, which is making him a grounded character, which makes him a related character, which makes him, the audience think of him as, was he really wrong? I mean, there was a discussion that could be had here if his character motivation was actually wrong, or if it was actually right, because he's taking up some, heavy themes, right? That is in discussion at the moment, a very socially conscious theme in the movie, which is yet again grounding the character, but also yet again just spinning it out of control of all proportions and making a fanatic view, because it's obviously going to be a villain, and the villain couldn't be all reasonable, because that's not how we can have it, right? But it's based on a theme that can be reasoned with in real life, right? Most of the time you can reason with this. It's just that the logic for why this character has applied this particular mindset is so strong so that it can't be swayed. At least that's how I saw it. And you can throw in some, casual killing, murder stuff, racism, and child trauma and all of that in that pot, and you stir and you get a good villain out of it. But at least to me it seems like it's based on this theme, and this drive is still based on some sort of discussion that could be had and is had in the real world about helping people, and where do we draw the line of helping people, and obviously taking this fanatic view. Moving over to Thanos then, because this is why I was starting to see this correlation, that Thanos has a similar thing going on in his movie. And I'm gonna say his movie, right, because Avengers Infinity War, it's a bloody Thanos movie, am I right? What he's taking up is this idea of what is life worth. And they're not gambling, but they're debating this in the movie in different scenes, right? I mean, Vision is talking to Captain America about what's life worth. We can trade my life for the rest of the lives in the universe. Where Captain America basically says that, no, we shouldn't have to do this. And Scarlet Witch is in love with Vision, so she said, no, we can't do this. And then you come along to Thanos, who has a very, very strong opinion about what life is worth. And that is that, life is spreading rampage. It's out of control. Let's just take half of it away so that the other half can actually thrive and prosper, which is also kind of a good discussion to be had there. I don't mean that genocide is something that should be appreciated, right? I don't say that is the obvious solution. No. But I'm just saying that how many out there haven't thought that, really many people on Earth right now, everybody's discussing that the resources aren't going around. How easy wouldn't it just be if we just, had half of the population? And I'm not saying that we should, brutally murder half of the population. I'm just saying that what if we found another planet or something, or another solution that would make it so that we would just half of the population on Earth? That will solve a lot of problems. And that's kind of the debate or the theme that Thanos is taking up as well, that if we were to have half of the life that exists in the universe, we would know more peace than we do right now. The problem, obviously, when you're viewing the entirety of the universe, and when you're viewing entirety and eternity in and within itself, right? Not eternity the character, but eternity, as a time span. You're seeing obvious problems that, we can't just relocate them, because his idea is still that there is a finite amount of resources, right? So that entire argument can be just thrown out the window. And obviously, and not obviously perhaps, but there is a reasoning for why the next logical step is take them away in some form, right? Which is why I think that this motivation of Thanos is really grounded in the idea that you could have that idea and I could have that idea. I mean, I have thought about this. Not, as I said, I haven't thought about just wiping out half of the population on Earth, but just that it would be so much easier, or would it be? Maybe it wouldn't, but probably. I mean, I've been speculating around the idea that what if we were just half the population on Earth? Wouldn't that be so much easier when you talk about these finite resources? Maybe if we were even a quarter of the people. So this is the interesting part, that you're taking up something that people have been thinking about, that there is a discussion about in politics, in sociology, in psychology, in economics, in the engineering department, probably everywhere. This discussion has been had at one point or another. But what Thanos does to establish him as the villain is that he's sacrificing everything in his way, which is not necessarily making him a villain, but he's also taking this very fanatic view on his own goals and on his own standpoint, on his own perspective. Because a normal person you could probably reason with and say, this is the logic for why I wouldn't want you to do this, right? And then Thanos would probably change his opinion if the logic provided and presented in such a way that it actually persuade him to change his side. Now, this is probably something that probably could happen in Avengers 4. Maybe. I don't know, because he seems to be a very intelligent character, or presented in such a way that he's a very intelligent character. Also something that is the same to go for Hela, for instance, I would argue, and especially for Killmonger. By the way that Killmonger just was presented, it's like the guy from the ghetto, and you get that vibe, but still the way that he talks, and the way that he pronunciates things, and his choice of words, he's written so beautifully and delivered so well. It really feels that this ghetto guy who has the ghetto around him, or my stereotype of the ghetto, I'd say. I'm not from there, right? I'm not from the ghetto, but a guy who I would think would be from the ghetto, but still had his brilliant education and is the, the top 1% in, IQ and stuff. I mean, it just brings together so well. Anyway, matters less in this discussion. But the idea, to take away from that, the entire idea that the villains seem to be intelligent and seems to be able to be reasoning with, or seems to have been applied by a logic and persuaded by a logic for why they're doing something, but can now not be swayed because they're so far on the other side of the spectrum. They're very black and white, which is what I was talking about in the beginning. The villain seems to take a very black and white stance on a political issue, or on a problem, or on a psychological problem that many people seem to discuss or have discussed at one point or another in their lives. Which is, yet again, making it grounded, but it's just taking this fanatic view. And why I think that this is very, very appealing, taking up different standpoints and taking them to the extreme, and see how the other party is trying to argue with this side, not perhaps through words in the debate in the movie, but you can still see the themes going around, and then you can discuss those themes with your mates when you go out. Out of the cinema. I think that that's brilliant. I love that personally, but it's just that if this is the theme that they've established and that they're going to go forward with in every single movie, even though it's generally a good format. Yet again, as I said, it creates a discussion, it creates a pressure, it creates a presence, it creates all manner of different things. A grounded villain, and a very good and compelling villain. However, if this is the way that you're going to go about with all their villains, you can kind of see the problem here, that the pattern would be recognized if this is the pattern that is. And that would probably diminish the future villains, because they're just going to be repetitions on the villains that I'm going to think about, is the obvious originals of this approach. And I know there are other villains out there and other characters out there outside of the MCU who's probably and have already embodied these different kinds of, approaches. But within the MCU, we're talking about within the MCU, in isolation. So if they keep on doing this, I would probably not have that much of a problem with it for the next 5 or 6 years. But after that, it might be a bit repetitive to have this same fanatic approach all the time. So I just hope that they innovate in this, but I think that it's a really brilliant touch, and it's a really good way of making a grounded villain that's still evil, but seems intelligent and can be powerful at the same time. And all of these things is weaved together nicely in this, with this approach. So yeah, that's my observations about Thanos and Killmonger specifically, and sliding in Hela a bit. Anyway, mates, it's 1 a.m. and I'm gonna go to sleep. Have a nice one, mates, and I'll see you tomorrow, which for me is going to be in more than 24 hours, hopefully. Have a nice one, mates. See ya.